Good evening, folks, or whenever you're watching this. I'm not really sure when that will be, but um, my name is Kat. I read stories, and while I'm reading stories, I am drawing stuff from said story. All the stories that I have been reading and will be reading for the foreseeable future are from the collection of Andrew Lang fairy books. So, enjoy that. They're very old books, so if you don't agree with some of the stuff, I do apologize. But they have some interesting things in them. Anyways, alright, I got about 30 seconds before the story starts. Alright, so I'm welcoming y'all back, and today I've got a little bit of a different setup. I am still using the Sketchbook Pro application. I also have this dude over, well, you can't really see. Okay. So I have this dude over here, which is the pure ref, like reference image, because some programs, like Sketchbook Pro, doesn't have the stuff that I like. So, 3, 2, 1.
The Yellow Fairy Book, edited by Andrew Lang, from the 2019 collection of Project Gutenberg. Story 5, The Golden Crab. Once upon a time, there was a fisherman who had a wife and 3 children. Every morning he used to go out fishing, and whatever fish he caught, he sold to the king. One day, among the other fishes, he caught a golden crab. When he came home, he put all the fishes together into a great dish, but he kept the crab separate because it shone so beautifully, and placed it upon a high shelf in the cupboard. Now, while the old woman, his wife, was cleaning the fish and had tucked up her gown so that her feet were visible, she suddenly heard a voice which said, let down thy petticoat, that lets thy feet be seen." She turned around in surprise, and then she saw the little creature, the golden crab. "What? You can speak? Can you? You ridiculous crab?" For she was not quite pleased at the crab's remarks. Then she took him up and placed him on a dish. When her husband came home and they sat down to dinner, they presently heard the little crab's voice saying, "Give me some too." They were all very much surprised, but gave him something to eat. When the old man came to take away the plate which had contained the crab's dinner, he found it full of gold, and the same thing happened every day. Soon he became very fond of the crab. One day the crab said to the fisherman's wife, "Go to the king and tell him I wish to marry his younger daughter." The old woman went accordingly and laid the matter before the king, who laughed a little at the notion of his daughter marrying a crab, but did not decline the proposal altogether, because he was a prudent monarch, and knew that the crab was likely to be a prince in disguise. He said, therefore, to the fisherman's wife, "Go, old woman, and tell the crab I will give him my daughter if by tomorrow morning he can build me a wall in front of my castle much higher than my tower, upon which the flowers of the world must grow and bloom." The fisherman's wife went home and gave this message. Then the crab gave her a golden rod and said, "Go and strike with this rod 3 times upon the ground on the place which the king showed you, and tomorrow morning the wall will be there." The old woman did so and went away again. The next morning, when the king awoke, what do you think he saw? The wall stood there before his eyes exactly as he had bespoken it. Then the old woman went back to the king and said to him, "Your Majesty's orders have been fulfilled." "That is all very well," said the king, "but I cannot give away my daughter until there stands in front of my palace a garden in which there are 3 fountains, of which the first must play gold, the second diamonds, and the third brilliants. So the old woman had to strike again 3 times upon the ground with the rod, and the next morning the garden was there. The king now gave his consent, and the wedding was fixed for the very next day. Then the crab said to the old fisherman, "Now take this rod, and go and knock with it on a certain mountain. Then a black man will come out and ask you what you wish for. Answer him thus: 'Your master the king has sent me to tell you that you must send him his golden garment that is like the sun. Make him give you, besides, the queen's robes of gold and precious stones, which are like flowery meadows, and bring them to me. And bring me also the golden cushion.'" The old man went and did his errand. When he had brought the precious robes, the crab put on the golden garment, and then crept upon the golden cushion. And in this way the fisherman carried him to the castle, where the crab presented the other garment to his bride. Now the ceremony took place, and when the married pair were alone together, the crab made himself known to his young wife, and told her how he was the son of the greatest king in the world, and how he was enchanted, so that he became a crab by day, and was a man only at night. And when he could also change himself into an eagle as often as he wished. No sooner had he said this than he shook himself, and immediately became a handsome youth. By the next morning he was forced to creep back into his crab shell, and then the same thing happened every day. But the princess's affection for the crab, and polite attention with which she behaved to him, surprised the royal family very much. They suspected some secret, but though they spied and spied, they could not discover it. Thus a year passed away, and the princess had a son whom she called Benjamin. But her mother still thought the whole matter very strange. At last she said to the king that he ought to ask his daughter whether she would not like to have another husband instead of the crab. But when the daughter was questioned, she only answered, "I am married to the crab, and him only I will have." Then the king said to her, "I will appoint a tournament in your honor, and I will invite all the princes of the world to it, and if any of them pleases you, you shall marry him." In the evening the princess told this to the crab, who said to her, "Take this rod, go to the garden gate, and knock with it. Then a black man will come out and say to you, 'Why have you called me, and what do you require of me?' Answer him thus: 'Your master the king has sent me hither to tell you to send his golden armor and his steed and the silver apple, and bring them to me.'" The princess did so, and brought him what he desired. The following evening the prince dressed himself for the tournament. Before he went, he said to his wife, "Now mind you do not say when you see me that I am the crab, for if you do this evil will come of it. Place yourself at the window with your sisters. I will ride by and throw you the silver apple. Take it in your hand, but if they ask you who I am, say that you do not know." So saying, he kissed her and repeated his warning once more, and went away. The princess went with her sisters to the window and looked on at the tournament. Presently her husband rode by and threw the apple up to her. She caught it in her hand and went with it to her room, and by her husband came back to her. But her father was much surprised that she did not seem to care about any of the princes. Therefore he appointed a second tournament. Then the crab gave his wife the same directions as before, only this time the apple which she received from the black man was of gold. But before the prince went to the tournament, he said to his wife, "Now I know you will betray me today." But she swore to him that she would not tell who he was. Then he repeated his warning and went away. In the evening, while the princess with her mother and sisters were standing at the window, the prince suddenly galloped past on his steed and threw her the golden apple. Then her mother flew into a passion and gave her a box on the ears and cried, Does not even that prince please you, you fool? The princess in her fright exclaimed, That is the crab himself! Her mother was still more angry because she had not been told sooner, ran into her daughter's room where the crab shell was still lying, took it up and threw it into the fire. Then the poor princess cried bitterly, but it was of no use. Her husband did not come back. Now we must leave the princess and turn to the other persons in the story. One day an old man went to a stream to dip in a crust of bread which he was going to eat, when a dog came out of the water, snatched the bread from his hand, and ran away. The old man ran after him, but the dog reached a door, pushed it open, and ran in, the old man following him. He did not overtake the dog, but found himself above a staircase which he descended. Then he saw before him a stately palace, and entering he found in a large hall a table set for 12 persons. He hid himself in the hall behind a great picture that he might see what would happen. At noon he heard a great noise, so that he trembled with fear. When he took courage to look out from behind the picture, he saw 12 great eagles flying in. At this sight his fear became greater still. The eagles flew to the basin of a fountain that was there and bathed themselves, when suddenly they were changed into 12 handsome youths. Now they seated themselves at the table, and one of them took up a goblet filled with wine and said, Health to my father! Another said, Health to my mother! And so the healths went around. Then one of them said, Health to my dearest lady, long may she live, but a curse on her cruel mother that burnt my golden shell. And so saying, he wept bitterly. Then the youths rose from the table, went back to the great stone fountain, turned themselves into eagles again, and flew away. Then the old man went away too, returned to the light of day, and went home. Soon after he heard that the princess was ill, and that the only thing that did her good was having stories told to her. He therefore went to the royal castle, obtained an audience of the princess, and told her about the strange things he had seen in the underground palace. No sooner had he finished than the princess asked him whether he could find the way to that palace. Yes, he answered, certainly. And now she desired him to guide her hither at once. The old man did so, and when they came to the palace he hid her behind the great picture, and advised her to keep quite still, and he placed himself behind the picture also. Presently the eagles came flying in, and changed themselves into young men, and in a moment the princess recognized her husband amongst all of them, and tried to come out of her hiding place. But the old man held her back. The youths seated themselves at the table, and now the prince said again while he took up the cup of wine, Health to my dearest lady, may she live long and well, but a curse on her cruel mother that burnt my golden shell. Then the princess could restrain herself no longer, but ran forward and threw her arms around her husband, and immediately he knew her again, and said, Do you remember how I told you that day that you would betray me? Now you see I spoke the truth. But all that bad time is past. Now listen to me. I must still remain enchanted for 3 months. Will you stay here with me till that time is over? So the princess stayed with him and said to the old man, Go back to the castle and tell my parents that I am staying here. Her parents were very much vexed when the old man came back and told them this. But as soon as 3 months of the prince's enchantments were over, he ceased to be an eagle and became once more a man, and they returned home together, and then they lived happily, and we who hear the story are happier still.
So, yeah, this story actually kind of hit me a little bit different than normal. Normally, these stories don't really have much concern on my thoughts and everything. But for some reason today, I'm feeling a little bit more what the F, man. type of feelings. Um, Mostly, I think, because um, with things that are going on today, it just like general, like you have this married couple and you have the mother-in-law literally coming in to their rooms and looking through their shit and then destroying their shit. Excuse me, stuff. Um yeah. Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Boundaries, people, boundaries. Boundaries are a thing. Like, and then turning around and being like, hey, yeah, we married you off to this one dude, but we're gonna totally marry you off to someone else, even though you are completely okay now that you've been married to this person and you're all okay with it. But we don't want to. So, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. Alright, I need my color wheel. Boop. Okie dokie. Okay, yeah. Let's go and use that. Wait. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. It probably just hit me wrong today. I'm probably just being a little bit silly. I mean, yeah, it is completely, totally a kid's story, but at the same time, it kind of sends off sort of the wrong message, I think. I don't know. You can let me know what you think. I could just be reading too much into it. I don't know. Anyways. Wrong button. That's not the right button. So, when doing paintings, on something a little bit more lighter, um, when doing paintings, wrong thing, wrong layer, I try to stay away from actual, like, blacks. Um, Mostly because black doesn't actually exist in nature. Like, true black doesn't actually exist in nature. Usually it's a, combination of, blues, purples, and browns. Browns is actually a big thing. Um, Obsidian is actually really, really dark brown. It looks black. It's probably the closest that we have to natural black. But if you really, really refine it, it's so much brown. It's just a really, really dark brown. Um, so I use too much black in my art. Though there are times where I do it. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you just need that black to really, really get that darkness. And I go in and put some of that blue in, back in. Do, 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 do. Oops, I did that wrong. I didn't check my settings. Oh. That's okay. Wrong button. Also, so here's a thing with digital art. When you go to do digital art, black is actually not a friend of digital artists because you can get a ridiculous amount of black, like a ridiculous amount of varying levels of black. And the problem is that you are really going to only see those varying levels of darkness on screen. And when you go to transfer that over to ink, a lot of it will come through, but not all of it. In fact, most of it will likely become lost when you go to print it. Because ink bleeds, and it's you can get very, very strict lines between white and dark, and it can be very, very exacting. But in the end, ink still bleeds, and when you have two colors that are very, very close, it's gonna bleed through very, very easily, and it's going to not be noticeable unless you're really, really, really looking for it. And most people who view art aren't really going to be looking for it. What they'll see is a large, large amount of black. So if you really want to show subtleties and shadow shifting and everything, it's more, you want that darkness, yes, you can add black. But if you want to show like subtleties in the shadow movements and how that goes, you usually want to have um, you want to do different colors inside of that. Same thing with whites. Whites will do the same thing. Um, it's just one of those. It's one of those things. It's just one of those things. I will say, if nothing else, doing these live streams, it's really, really nice with this program or with Sketchbook Pro because I can't see a really smaller version unless I really, really zoom out. But on here, while I'm streaming, I've got like a nice little window that lets me see what it looks like. So that's a lot of fun. Please, Sketchbook Pro, please. By the way, they don't pay me to say any of this. These are my honest thoughts, and I only endorse things I think work. I definitely am more like, hey, this thing works. Everyone should try it. Or use it. Well, yeah. Yeah. And I really, really, really like it. Like, sushi. Everyone should try sushi at least once in your life. Or twice. Probably twice, and give yourself about 7 years between. Because your taste buds are different after every 7 years. And go to varying different places for that. It is a lot of different stuff. Um, and that uh, what was I saying? Sushi, right? Sushi. So, okay, here's a story about sushi and why I'm like, hey, you should go and try it more than once. Is that the first time I had sushi, um, my brother, being the connoisseur that he is, went and bought sushi for me one time whenever I went to visit him, and it was deeply unpleasant, mostly because of the wasabi. Yeah, that whole wasabi shtick is a real thing. Um, So be prepared. If you haven't had wasabi, definitely be prepared for that. But, it was. I didn't enjoy it at the time. It was interesting, it was a new thing. And then, years later, I went ahead and did the sushi thing again with some friends. And I was like, oh, this stuff is pretty good. And since then, I've gotten a lot better at telling the different kinds of sushi. So, same thing comes with almost everything you do. The more you do it, the more you realize, hey, this is a thing. Now I forget what I was doing that brought up the sushi thing. Was it trying new things? I think it was like trying new things, trying different things, retrying things. The point is that yes, you want to do new things, but you also want to go and try new things and retry new things. Ow, that hurt. I hurt myself. Um, because sometimes you may not like it the first time. Now, for things that are not approved for health reasons, that's a little bit different. You know, that stuff, there's reasons why they say don't do that. If you want to, by all means, go forth and do it, but be it on your own head. Or on your own head, be it, however that works. Because, yeah, yeah, doing bad things to yourself is just silly for whatever reason. Because probably the truest statement that I've ever heard is that there's always going to be someone that you affect, and what you do or don't do will affect them in ways that you honestly won't know. So, my recommendation is don't do anything silly, because someone is either listening to you or watching you. And you won't know that they're copying you until it's too late, or until you realize that. And you know what? If you want to take that in a bad way, shame on you. But if you take that in a good way, then, good. Good, good. I do certainly. Long time. Okay, so I don't know how many people I don't know how many people still do this, but back in the day, yes, I sound old, but back in the day when I was a little kid, we have sticker tattoo vending machines. I still see them around. I just don't see them around as much. But one of the stickers I got as a kid was, if I can't be a good example, I'll be a horrible warning. Unfortunately for me, I definitely lean on the whole horrible warning side of it. So, it is what it is. No, I haven't done anything really terrible. I provide a good example of what not to do in a lot of ways. But this is a good example. Practice, practice, practice. Practicing is a good example. Not being afraid to mess up in front of possibly millions of people. Woohoo! I don't want to mess up in front of millions of people, but I totally am. And that's just something I'm going to have to live with for a while. Oh, wrong one. See? Messed up. But that's how you learn, is that you learn through messing up. I don't know what I'm going for here. I really don't. It's talking wise. Beep. Beep, boop, boop, boop. Okay, I'm gonna move you guys over because that's really starting to bother me. You know what? I might make you bigger and blend you out. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Oh yeah, and just so everyone knows, tracing is not cheating. It is a tool. And if you think otherwise, good on you for feeling that way. Hope you feel real superior about it. um, Tracing is not a cheat. Um, because you know what, artists have been tracing for years, years and years and years, centuries. Let's go with centuries or millennia. They have been tracing for at least centuries. That much we know. Oh, why do you say that? Well, simply to put, they have been. Um, Now I don't know like how 100% accurate this is, but when it comes to the term cartooning, that actually comes, or that, from my experience, that has come from the fact that when artists would transfer or trace their paintings or their drawings to their final media, what they would do is poke holes into their they would poke holes into sheets of paper, or they would do their drawings onto large sheets of paper, and then they would poke holes along them, along the lines, and then they would take then they would place the place um, sheets the sheets against whatever the canvas was, be it a wall or a my goodness. All right, be it a wall or be it a canvas, and then they would go and put um, chalk dust, colored chalk dust against that. So then, whenever they would remove the remove the paper, you'd see a faint outline of what was traced on there, essentially. And that's called cartooning. It's also called tracing. So, yeah, yeah, tracing has been around forever. Artists have done it forever. Um, there is a whole like machine that was created. It's making a comeback. It's been making a comeback recently. And I don't remember what that was. Um, oh, that's fine. Anyways, but anyways, so what it is, it's like it's camera. I want to say camera obscura, but I don't think that that's right. Um, anyways, what it is that it's like this little pinhole device, and you would go and uh, look at something through this device, and either if you had it in a dark room and had everything but that pin source for the light, you could literally trace the cityscape onto a piece of canvas. It would be upside down initially, but uh, you could trace it onto a piece of canvas, and that's all you had to do. That is your drawing. That is your background for your painting. Um, there's a similar device where they could look through it, well, looking at someone, or be inside, and instead of using light, it was a set of mirrors. Same principle, except you could look at the subject and look down at your canvas and trace them onto your canvas. So tracing has been around forever, and artists have been using it for ever. Because, especially for commission work, you gotta get stuff done. Yes, it's great if you can do stuff purely from your mind, but nah, it's really, really hard to do. And especially if you want a more lifelike image. Um, Probably a really good example of that is when we see the paintings that came out of the early Renaissance. Uh, like, there's 3 different sets of things that are going through the Renaissance. You've got a lot more of the religious paintings coming about, and I don't like those two. So you've got these like really, really odd looking like baby man Jesus dudes, and then you have towards the end of the Renaissance, you have more of these like hyper realistic. Yeah, it'll be fine. Uh, you have more of these hyper realistic people or portraits of people. Well, the ones that were portraits of people, especially towards the end of the Renaissance, those came from using tracing methods. Yes, you can go and create a hyper realistic person from memory, but not if you're doing commissions. Yes, they had patrons and all that. However, that still wasn't enough, because a lot of these, patrons would go and sell their artists' skills to other people. So there's whole like Da Vinci had a whole workshop. like any of the big masters that we talk about, they had a whole workshop. It wasn't just one person painting this entire thing. Now, there were some here and there where it was their personal pieces, but like the Mona Lisa is definitely a personal piece. But for the most part, there was a whole workshop behind a lot of these artisans. And that that's where, or so they didn't have a lot of time to go and just fiddle fart around trying to get, oh, we must get this absolutely perfect. No, we have to get this done type of mentality. You know, yes, we want to get perfect, or as close to perfect as we can, but at the same time, we have, like, a lot of other work to do. I mean, like the Sistine Chapel, there's no way that, crud, I'm gonna screw up my artist. I want to say it was Michelangelo. I'm screwing up my artist. Anyways, the artist that did that, oh man, that painting, even though it's supposed to be like one of the best paintings, I have never seen it, so I cannot go and be oohed and awed on it. But that one, that one is supposed to be one of the, you know, one of the best painting, or one of the best paintings in the world. It's also a lot, essentially, it was a lot of shit posting too. Like, there's so many, so like I talked about on in my last video, you know, artists are the historians, and we have never exactly been quiet about our point of views, and we never will be quiet about our point of views. We'll try, and in a lot of cases, we can be really subtle about it, but at the same time, it's very much, no, we don't see eye to eye on this. And so, you know, there's so many things where that happened. It's crazy. You know, if you really want to get into like scandals and stuff, like, yeah, sure, Galileo's a big one, but honestly, artists have had like the craziest histories. Probably probably one of my favorite ones is that the modern depiction of Jesus, who we consider Jesus to be, is supposedly Leonardo da Vinci's lover. How true that is, I don't know. I'm sure that somewhere there was a diary or something that said, yeah, my boyfriend's being a butt because he won't go and model for my painting. I have absolutely no doubt that there's a thing. I have no doubt that that's not a thing. I'm sorry if I have ruined anyone's thoughts on this. Kind of. Kind of sorry about it. I'm sorry. It's just funny. It's just funny to me. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah. Um, he looks very much rainbowy. Oh, now he looks way less rainbowy. So, there's that. There's so much drama in the arts. Okie dokie doke. That's not how I want that to go. I want you... There we go. And then... Yeah, that'll be fine. Ah. Anyways. Yep, I get real quiet whenever I'm focusing or making decisions. Nope, I did that wrong. Because this needs to go over that. That needs... Ooh, nope. And... Yeah, I can live with that. Yep, yep, I can live with that. Anyways. Oh, uh-oh. Ha. Cool. Huh. So, I think I just lost connection. I'm sorry, folks. So, that's going to end up getting worse. So, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream a little bit early. But that's not necessarily unnatural for me. Sorry. Anyways. Alright. I hope I didn't, like, frighten y'all off with my talks. Anyways, it was great doing this again. The plan is to be back tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I should be good. I should be good. But I will go and post another video tomorrow. And I will... and my wingman is helping me out, Fearger. Totally butchering it again, but that's okay. So he's helping me out with this, and it looks like, yeah, it did go out, and I'm very, very sorry about that. So, that's my cue to go and sign off. I promise, I will be posting the finished pieces along with a video showing the finished piece by the end of the month. By the end of the month. Alright, folks. I hope that y'all have a good night, and I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow.